This is Japan's strangest unsolved mystery. And I've watched a lot of video from like Japan history, you know, from channels like Unpredictable, Kyoto Labato, etc., etc. So let's see if this is what I know. If I know it, I guess we'll pass. But if I don't, I guess it will be nice. So yeah, Nexpo. I haven't actually watched an Nexpo video in a long time, but pretty good channel. Flashing lights. Let's see.
Monday. The peak is shrouded in fog. It's the aftermath of one of the most violent storms to hit the area in months.
Always such an awesome atmosphere in his
videos. A search helicopter powers through the mist, scouring the region for a pair of hikers from Tokyo who set out the day prior and haven't been seen or heard from since. This hunt has been ongoing for hours, sunlight dwindling as search teams comb every crevice, yet find no trace of anyone around. But as nightfall takes its grip, enveloping the area in complete blackness, suddenly, something strange enters their view.
This looks so creepy. Oh.
Just south of Mount Asahi Dake, a crudely constructed, massive SOS sign beckons from a clearing. It's undeniable that the missing hikers have made this, and it's a damn good thing they did, because with conditions like these, finding them otherwise would have been nearly impossible. The team swarms the area, with newfound hope that these hikers just might.
But how dark it is, it's a miracle they actually found this.
They search, and search, and search, until finally, they find them.
Alive?
About a mile north, the two men emerge from a cave. They are completely disoriented, battered, and exhausted, but most prominently are in complete disbelief that the rescuers found them.
Yeah.
As they're pulled up into the aircraft, the search team reassures them that they're gonna be okay, before commending them on their efforts while out there.
Did they not make the SOS sign? Was it someone else?
We couldn't have found you without your help, they claim. You guys did a really great job building that sign.
They didn't.
The men pause for a minute, visibly confused. I'm sorry. We didn't build the sign.
Wow, okay.
We had no idea.
I haven't thought about this one. That's spooky as hell. Lay le contexte. I'm ready.
You know, I'll admit, the island of Hokkaido is beautiful. It's a landscape adorned with volcanic mountaintops, trails with serene views, and a multitude of steam vents, giving the area an almost dreamlike aesthetic.
It does look very unreal.
It's no wonder that it's one of the most popular hiking spots in Japan, as no matter what time of year you go, you're bound to have an experience you'll never forget.
I still accept requests, yeah?
From the summit of Mount Asahi Dake, it was 2.6 miles directly south where the SOS sign awaited. Resting in a relatively flat wetland, it was constructed with 19 cleanly cut birch tree logs, each measuring at around 16 feet long. Interestingly, the deviation down here is considerably longer than the main hiking trail on the mountain, making its existence entirely perplexing. As far as it's known, there are no trails south of this mountain, implying that whoever built it had to have made their diversion from the north. A detour littered with steep cliffs, a dense forest, and even the turbulent Chubetsu River. At this point, it's completely unknown how this person got here, and for Japanese police, it was undeniable that a mystery was brewing on the mountain. Someone is still out there, likely pleading for help.
One day later.
One day later, a second team is dispatched to probe the area for any signs of hikers in distress, this time with emphasis on the wetland the sign sits in. And while they all held out hope of finding someone still alive, unfortunately, just a few short hours into their search, they'd uncover quite the contrary.
Okay.
Hidden near the SOS sign are scattered human remains covered in bite marks from wildlife, and nearby, a backpack containing various
I love the SOS is actually like from a while ago, not from around the time of the two men.
A Sony Walkman, 4 cassette tapes, toothpaste, a bar of soap,
PS1,
and a towel.
PS2 presentation, love it.
At first glance, it's obvious that the belongings in the human bones are connected. However, a curious question lingered in everyone's mind. How did this person with enough energy and strength to build an SOS sign out of 19 massive logs allow themselves to die in nature? For the rescue team,
literally existed them.
Was discovered that day.
Yeah.
For what it's worth, though, this seemed like a pretty open and shut case. Locals have claimed that the weather on this mountain is volatile, with thunderstorms rolling in with hardly any notice. Perhaps this person got turned around, mistakenly made their way down here, and spent their final days awaiting help that never came.
That makes sense, and then I guess the sign did not rescue them, but it I guess helped rescue 2 others, which is crazy.
The sight at the SOS sign and the story it tells is grim, but all things considered, this case, again, seemed relatively straightforward.
Seems.
Someone passed away here and built an SOS sign before it happened. The only question really was, who was it? And how exactly did they get here?
They got lost, I mean, it's always like that, no? 2 days later.
Days pass, and examiners from the Asahikawa Medical University notify Hokkaido police that the human bones belong to a female. Reportedly, she was about 5 foot 3 inches tall, had type O blood, was somewhere between 20 and 40 years old at the time of her death,
That's a range.
carried bone fractures in multiple locations, and died within the span of 1 to 3 years prior.
Yeah, so it's been a while,
Aside from
okay.
this, there was no further identifying information about her, and effectively, she was consistent.
What? Since when is this an horror video? Stop it.
Something is wrong.
What?
This doesn't make any sense at all.
Oh. Actually, you're right. I mean... if she was the one who made this, how did she do it with broken bones? That's pretty insane. And after 3 years, this sign would have been noticed, or it would have been... the wood would have returned or something, it wouldn't look like that anymore, yeah? Man, okay, that's weird. Stop with the creepy ass forest.
Upon calculating the weight of the SOS logs by utilizing numerous wood weight charts online, I found that 16-foot segments of birchwood weighs anywhere
VSL,
between 150 and 400 pounds each, depending on diameter.
Yeah.
Multiply this by the 19 segments this sign is comprised of, and we have a whopping total range of 2,850 and 7,600 pounds of total weight making up this sign. So with this information,
as someone who, again, I used to work in forest, well, mostly rivers, like in France, where, you know, the job was to cut trees that during a flood would get teared off the ground and damage bridge and stuff like that. So we'd cut off a bunch of trees and basically clean up the river in advance. And often we would cut some pretty heavy trees, right? With a crazy big diameter, right? And then we would have to move the tree in pieces. So you would cut them in pieces, and even though the pieces would be like, you know, this wide and like this, the pieces were still like 10 to 20 kilo, right? And just a piece like that was really like quite a pain to take and carry to the riverbank or something. So a full long ass log like that, I mean, even moving one, you would have to like manage to grab it and just drag it with you. Like the weight would be insane. It's not realistic.
we're left to assume that a 5'3" female with fractured bones had the energy and strength to not only cut down 19 massive trees with tools that were never found, but also had the stamina to transport anywhere between 1 and 3 tons of weight completely by herself. Let's not forget either that all...
Yeah, and if you were actually like in trouble, you wouldn't do this, right? You would try like to dig in the ground or something to do your SOS. Like, this doesn't make any sense, yeah? So someone else made the sign.
All of this was done after taking a treacherous 2.6-mile diversion down the south side of a mountain, undoubtedly causing considerable exhaustion from the elements. Without help, constructing this sign alone is an extraordinary feat.
So there might have been others. Maybe there's more bodies to be found.
A feat that doesn't add up given the context here. So was this person actually alone? Or was there perhaps someone else that died there with her?
Died or not, you never know. The Nexpo broadcast system. We'll be right back.
Alright guys, before we continue down the rabbit hole, I'd like to tell you about
I've
tonight's
never
video
seen
sponsor,
Mr. Nexpo.
Incogni. Alright, so it seems like nearly every year now, I read about yet another data breach. I mean, just last month,
Every year, doing it every
millions
day.
of social security numbers were exposed in a massive hack. Your information is potentially out there, exposed to hackers who could use it to open up credit cards, buy a car. They could be you, approving purchases that you have no knowledge about. It goes without saying that the implications of this are horrifying, which is exactly why I use Incogni. Incogni is a service that actively safeguards your information through an intuitive dashboard that shows you how many data brokers have your information and if you've been affected by any data breaches. After signing up and giving them permission to work for you, their team gets at it, immediately scouring the internet for any traces of your info online while demanding its removal whenever it's found. Go to incogni.com/Nexpo and use code Nexpo for an exclusive offer of
PS1,
60%
PS2
off.
like sound effects and stuff
Once
that
again,
is
that's
using.
incogni.com/Nexpo and
I
use
love
code
that.
Nexpo or click the link below to take your personal data off the market. Thank you so much to Incogni for sponsoring tonight's video. Now let's get back to it.
Tonight, but it is during the day for me. Kaido Police Headquarters.
It's late at HQ, and investigators are scouring for clues. Of everything they uncovered, the cassette tapes seem to be the most promising lead on uncovering the identity of this woman. And so, they put them in their tape player and begin to listen.
So they actually work, huh?
As they play, they're met with musical tracks taken from various anime TV shows. However, once they make it to the last one, something strange gives them pause.
kind of wanted to know what song she was listening to. This actually sounds familiar. Oh wow. Oh wow. That's messed up.
Despite the bones being female,
It's a male's
the
voice,
voice
yeah.
on this
Yeah.
recording, clearly in distress, belongs to a man.
Yeah, I didn't
In
register at first.
translation, SOS, help me. I'm stuck on the cliff. SOS, help me.
But
I'm at the
it's like, it's a cassette recorder, like, it's not a radio. So why would he record that?
location where I first met the helicopter. The Sasa is deep and I can't climb up.
Sasa?
Please pick me up here.
Or the river?
Interesting.
Interesting indeed. That's skittish. What's the point of recording that, though?
Aside from the blatant parallels to the SOS sign, I can't help but find it strange that this man uses not a single phrase implying that he's with someone. I don't know about you, but if I were stranded somewhere with another person, I'd plead for someone to help us, because we are the ones stuck here.
Not to be the Japanabu guy, but I'm pretty sure Japanese is very unspecific about stuff like this. I might be wrong about this case since I don't fully speak or anything, but, you know, it's very likely that the way you talk is often like very context dependent. So like the same phrase might imply we or I, and you just know depending on the context. Right? No? Am I right? Am I wrong?
In this recording, though, it sounds as if he's completely alone, unaware that a female is stranded in the exact same area. Almost like, to him, this female doesn't exist. The woman who the bones belong to and the man who the voice belongs to almost exist in a vacuum. Remnants of two people discovered in the exact same spot, completely unaware of the other's existence. The only thing tying them together, an SOS sign nearly impossible for one person to build, and whispers of an agonizing death. A sight of demise that we are years too late with uncovering.
I mean, yeah. This is quite the mystery, the spooky mystery. The mysterious mystery. 3 days later.
Fascinated by this case, a Japanese reporter named Koyo Abaratani sets out to the site of the SOS sign in search of any clues the police may have overlooked. While uncovering anything new was one hell of a long shot, surprisingly, after they dug through some tree roots, they actually uncovered something.
Alright, that easy.
Just 165 feet north of the SOS sign and hidden under foliage was a large hole containing various belongings.
Just like that.
2 cameras,
And the cops.
a notebook, and most prominently,
Oh,
a
identity card.
license.
License, okay.
This ID belonged to a man named Kinji Iwamura, someone from Kanan City in southern Japan, over 800 miles south. This discovery was massive because for all anyone knew, this was bound to be their guy. I mean, this had to have been the voice on the recording, right?
Why would
And
it be
of
buried
course,
though?
this man must have been associated in some capacity with the female bones found at the same site. While she may be, up to this point, still unidentified, at the very least, those investigating this case finally had a name.
I was gonna say, maybe again, like this lady died a while ago. Then maybe if, like, while he was lost himself, he found her body, he found the Walkman or whatever, the cassette tape recorder, and maybe he thought it was a radio. That's why he recorded that while thinking it's a radio or something. Obviously, none of this explained the SOS sign, but I don't know.
Kenji Iwamura.
Five years earlier. What kind of guy is
It's
he?
the middle of summer, and 24-year-old Kenji Iwamura sets out for Mount Asahidake for a short hiking trip. He arrives at a small mountain lodge at the base of the summit and only plans to be there for a couple nights. Later on, he informs the hotel owner that he's embarking on a hike, ignoring warnings of a storm that would hit the area that night.
Why would you?
Hesitant, the owner agrees. And so Kenji sets off from the hotel lobby and embarks into the great unknown.
You could say that's already kind of sus, but I think it's not as uncommon as you think. I remember like one case in Germany where something like that happened back in, I think it was before World War II, where some, scout leader took a bunch of kids in the mountain despite the fact that a storm was clearly coming, and the local warned them that this was a bad idea. And then I remember another one in another European country where the same thing happened, like one of a storm and still ignores it and a bunch of kids died. It seems to be a thing. Like, people just don't seem to sometimes like take a storm seriously for some reason.
As time ticks by, the sky darkens. The hotel owner becoming increasingly anxious and with no way to contact him to confirm how he's faring in this unstable weather. Hours pass without a word from him. The storm comes and goes. The clock approaches.
Midnight.
Days pass without a word from him. Weeks come and go.
Well,
Kenji Iwamura never turned up. He was never seen again.
we know he got lost then.
With the discovery of Kenji's ID, police were certain that they'd crack this case. Reportedly, determining gender from bone fragments isn't always accurate, and for all they knew, they had to belong to him. From here, they tracked down and contacted Kenji's family, believing that this was the final piece of verification they needed to close this case. Their confidence was at an all-time high, catalyzed by his parents later claiming that he was an avid fan of anime and that the backpack they uncovered indeed belonged to him. And so, at last, the police played the cassette tape for them, certain that they'd recognize the voice of their son.
But it's not. Wait, I was gonna say I'm confused. I thought the cassette tape was from the girl, and she was the anime fan. I'm confused.
And as fate would have it, by the grace of God, they didn't recognize this voice at all.
Called it.
They have no idea who this person is.
What the fuck? Like, I guess this is like a whole thread of like, I guess there's a ton of people that end up missing in that place. Man. What the fuck?
With no evidence of foul play, Hokkaido police, bizarrely, continued to run with their theory that this sign was built by Kenji Iwamura.
Well,
They cast
they
aside the
don't want to
consensus
spend more time
about the
investigating.
bones, the lack of identification with the voice, and simply ran with it. It took just 11 days for them to close this case, and to this day, the mystery surrounding the SOS sign has been cast into the void of history. Solved to them, yet completely bewildering to the world surrounding them.
I mean, the only logical thing for the SOS sign is it had to be two healthy people, considering how heavy things was to move. But even then, this looks like the kind of project that would take so long that I feel like most people would still try to, rather than make this giant SOS sign by getting these tree logs and all that, they'd rather try to find like civilization or river or something to follow. So that's already kind of weird. And then obviously the fact that like one of the body found is like broken bone and, you know, couldn't have helped and all that, there's so much that doesn't make sense.
By 1990, the bones were re-examined, and the consensus underwent a surprising change. Reportedly, they never belonged to a woman with type O blood, but rather a man.
How did they mistake it like that?
Type A.
What the fuck? I guess technology has advanced, but damn. This is a truly fascinating mystery.
Why the hell were the bones suddenly reclassified? Who was the man recorded on Kenji's tapes? How were these massive trees carried and placed by just one person? And how were these trees chopped down at all?
Oh, so they were clearly cut? He didn't really fully explain that. I assumed, like, since the beginning that it was more like they found some, you know, they had to like look around the area, so probably like a few kilometers to find some perfectly, like somewhat, you know, lengthy and somewhat straight pieces of wood. So no, they were cut down cleanly, is what it is.
Taking a broader look at the landscape,
I'm even more
we've
confused.
established that the site of the SOS sign was reached by a diversion from the main Mount Asahidake trail. As we've seen, though, multiple hikers have done this. So how have they all made the exact same mistake? So, as it turns out, there's an incredibly confusing landmark on the mountain.
Okay.
It's a boulder called Safe Rock, and it's typically used by climbers to orient themselves on their
But
track.
I guess it's not very
as
safe.
Once you encounter it, you're required to take a right turn to continue your journey to the peak. Bizarrely, however, there sits another identically shaped boulder right next to Safe Rock called Fake Safe Rock.
Okay.
Unlike the former, using this one as a guide diverts hikers to the much more dangerous south side of the mountain.
Then just
Terrain littered with
destroy
steep
this rock.
cliffs and intense grades
It's a fake.
filled with a specific type of bamboo, known locally as sasa.
Sasa.
In recent years, Fake Safe Rock has been marked with a rope to signal that you shouldn't follow it. However, to this day, hikers
How's there signaling that you can't follow it? Why not just put a sign literally saying like, don't go this way, it's the wrong way, it's dangerous.
often misinterpret it for the actual Safe Rock, adding even further confusion
it's
to
just
an
a rope.
already disorienting situation. I'm sure you're finding this convoluted as I'm explaining it to you.
That's
Now
fine.
imagine if you were faced with this dilemma while exhausted,
Yeah.
in the wild, and completely alone.
Okay, but at the same time, like, if you're trying to get back to the peak, like, I know there's trails, but you see the peak and you see the mountain. From what they showed, they were clearly going down the mountain from whatever path they took. So, like, if they're actually lost, like, you can literally see the mountain, so just go toward the mountain, right? No? Am I stupid? I don't
To
know.
this day, it's believed that both the Tokyo hikers and Kenji Iwamura made this mistake, leaving them both to be stranded and completely helpless. So with this in mind, let's go forth and entertain the idea that Kenji Iwamura was the only one involved here. Let's just say that everything belongs to and was done by no one but him.
No way.
So it went a little something like this. Iwamura begins his trek from the lodge and makes his way up the Asahidake Trail. Because of the impending storm, it's possible that there are few hikers up on the mountain.
Yeah.
He makes his journey all the way up before the sky darkens and dense fog rolls in. He encounters the fake safe rock, confusing it for the real one, and makes a right turn, leading him south. As the day bleeds by, he begins to panic, the sky darkening as his psyche becomes ever more anxious. He recognizes not a single thing about the path he's on, and it becomes rapidly clear to him that he's venturing nowhere
So
near
then,
the summit.
just turn back on the pass.
Completely turned around and with no other choice, he continues, following some semblance of a path, even though it's only heading down.
I guess in this situation, you can't really judge, right? Someone may be very scared, losing their bearing, etc. But if it's a pass, just turn back. Why would you double down and keep going down this path that's leading down? Clearly not where you're supposed to go. I mean, again, I guess it's hard to always do a logical decision in a situation like this, Fear and all that breaks your brain.
Is he heading back to camp? Are there any towns in this direction? Where exactly is he going? As hours pass, he becomes more panicked and begins screaming for help, for anyone to hear him. He falls off a cliff on the way down and breaks 2 bones. And so, in immense distress, pulls out his Sony Walkman to record an SOS message and later plays it on repeat to save himself from damaging his voice.
Okay, but that doesn't explain anything. What do you mean? I don't get it. Like, even if you're playing it, especially back in the day, there's no way that this had much volume. So there's no way that this replaces you screaming for help. Nah, I don't know if I buy this part.
As he continues to limp downward, he encounters and crosses the Chupetsu River before eventually landing at his final destination, the flat wetland where he would build the SOS
There's no way.
and where the two would inevitably remain.
How? What logic is there to him building it after breaking his bones?
On the surface, this theory makes sense. However, when you begin to pick apart the finer details, this story rapidly falls apart. As we know, the only cliffs in the vicinity are up the mountain, and if these are what Kenji's referring to in his recording, assuming it's him, then he made it to the wetland with broken bones and in excruciating pain. Even if we give him the benefit of the doubt and say that he had every tool in the world, building a sign of this scale would take immense effort for just one person. It's been said that something like this would take 2 days to construct for someone healthy. So how in the world did Kenji do this while critically injured?
It doesn't make sense.
There was no axe ever found. And why would he have one on a mountain hike anyway?
Even if he had a freaking chainsaw, I mean, come on. Yeah. Come on.
On top of this, the condition of the bones indicated that he would have been incredibly frail by the time he passed away. There is no way this man made this thing alone, leading me to believe that Kenji Iwamura, perhaps, wasn't the only one.
Right, there might be more bodies. There might be more bodies.
Consider this.
And right away, what I'm thinking is like, is there a lot of other like missing person case of people who are meant to go here? What about around the time of him being there, etc., right?
Kenji is on the hike, and somewhere during his climb, encounters someone else out there.
Yeah.
The two are both on their way to the mountain peak, and so they pair up and continue their trek.
But they're going
together.
down.
As the fog rolls in, the two begin to undergo equally critical errors, making their turn at fake safe rock and getting lost down the mountain's south end. Injured, one of them makes a recording while the other pleads to keep going. And so they continue downward, cross the river, and make it to the wetland where Kinji lies in agony.
That's another thing that just doesn't seem to make sense. Why would they cross the river? Like, when you're lost, it seems often logical to try to follow a river, as you're very likely to find civilization close to a river. But why just cross it and then continue on the other side or something?
It's possible that this other hiker, for some reason, had an axe, and over the next few days, made this sign with incredibly limited help from Kinji. Kinji knows he can't go any further, though. And so, in a final fit of desperation, the other hiker grabs a handful of supplies and takes off to find them help.
I mean, makes a bit more sense, I guess.
This could explain why police never found an axe.
But again, another thing that would really explain things is, I'm sure the cops and the later investigator have looked at the logs, how were they cut. It's pretty easy to tell how it was cut between like chainsaw, axe, or handsaw or something. So did they actually determine how it was cut?
This could explain why the voice on the recording wasn't Kinji. And this, potentially, could explain how this sign was even made in the first place. The human body can go 3 days without water, and perhaps this unknown person used their last in a final push for rescue.
I mean, they got a river.
At the end of it all, though, they would never make it, and instead would die a slow death. Surrounded by darkness, by wilderness, and in a forest. Completely abandoned.
It's possible. But as was mentioned earlier, and again, maybe I'm wrong about the thing that I said about, you know, context in Japanese and all that, but there was no mention of we in the SOS recording. Like, yeah.
Perhaps their body is still out there, but we just haven't found it yet. It's a tragic end to someone who may not even exist. But goddammit, it's the only way this story makes any sense. Kinji Iwamura had to have gotten help from someone else on the mountain that night. There is just no way in which he couldn't have.
I'm not convinced about any of this. There's too much mystery, too much not explained.
I refuse to believe that there was just one person on Mount Asahidake that night. The circumstances are just too extraordinary for one to pull this off alone. The broken bones, the stranger on the tape, the rapid closure, someone migrating literal tons of weight after vital injuries. Everything about this conflicts with the reality of the situation we've been given. These theories, as far-fetched as they are the only way this makes any sense in my brain. And even then, I'm still assuming that someone had an axe, assuming that an entire second person was there, and assuming that this other person died and was never found elsewhere on the mountain. No matter which way we approach this, nothing makes sense without drawing vectors to things that may or may not have happened. And to me, that's what makes this incident so incredibly perplexing.
It is very interesting.
The man on the recording never stated that he was with someone. And even if we assume that Kinji wasn't alone, the only way this story makes any sort of sense, it's almost like the two of them never even knew the other existed. It's like two people encountered the exact same spot, just on completely different timelines.
Yeah, I don't know what I believe is the most likely or anything.
It goes without saying that we can theorize for hours about what took place on Mount Asahidake and how the SOS sign, given the evidence we currently have, shouldn't exist. But out of everything, the one detail that haunts me most about this is the simple fact that at the end of everything, the police have never formally identified the bones as belonging to Kinji. And this
That's
is
right.
after they were reclassified to belonging to a male. After this story spread to the world around them. And after the mystery surrounding the SOS sign and all of its bizarre inconsistencies had spearheaded this into one of the most captivating unsolved cases in history.
That's true. I mean, we're not even sure it's actually the one guy that went missing, which means that if it's not him, his body hasn't been found. And there's like even more people that might have been missing on that same day. And all died on that same day.
There
That's
has
insane.
never been an official answer as to who the bones belong to. And to this day, nobody knows when the SOS sign was made. And who in the world built it.
Again, I wonder if there's any pictures of the actual, like, what's the name of it? What's the name of it? Like, a picture of the logs or anything? 1989 Saidake missing person case. Say case. SOS case. I can't write Asahi. Mount Asahi SOS pictures. Is there actual pictures of it? The SOS incident. Oh, this is how it looks. We say very low resolution, okay. I don't know if there's closer pictures. That would be good if there was. Oh, this is the rock they were talking about. This is safe rock. Okay, okay. Wood pictures. Now I'm guessing there's no closer pictures of it. Again, like, what I'm really interested is, like, you know, there's no way they didn't try to determine how the wooden part were cut, and it should be pretty easy to tell or something. I feel like there's a bunch of gap. I don't know if it's like we don't know or it wasn't mentioned in the video, right? But yeah, okay. From Nexpo with love. The end. Yeah, I think it's Patreon after that. Okay, well, super interesting. That's actually like one of the most interesting Japanese mystery I've heard. Like, there's a lot of like Japanese mystery or just, you know, like disappearance mystery like this video that I watch that don't feel as perplexing, but here, yeah, there's definitely a ton of questions without answers. I mean, like the parents not recognizing the voice, so, and the DNA not confirming or not whether it was the guy. Even though I don't get it, if they actually got the DNA, can't they compare it to the DNA of the family and try to make sure? So did they do that and realize that no, it's not the same? So then it confirms that the body is not him. Also, how did they mistake it with a woman? Also, does that imply that more people went missing? And also, yeah, has there been any like search if any people went missing that area at the time or anything like that? I mean, there's so many questions. So many damn questions. Clearly the cops weren't super motivated in investigating, it seems like. You know, I'm sure they could have found more otherwise. But man, insanely interesting case. Yeah. A shame I didn't watch that video when it came out, but I'm glad I watched it now. Insanely interesting. Oh, this was made in an Unreal Engine. I see. I see. That's crazy. That's crazy.